Joining us now from North Carolina, the purveyor of BernardGoldberg.com. Bernard Goldberg, there he is, in person, live, as they say. Let me set you up here. You got a very fine website. We want people to go to BernardGoldberg.com. You were in the exact same position as Pelly, the 60 Minutes guy who got fired. So you wrote a book called Bias, all right? And the book said, and you're working at CBS News at the time, they're not square. CBS News is not a square operation, they're not fair. Okay, you didn't get fired, you got iced, rather than the boys put you on ice. So you know the Pelly story better than anyone. If you had to go back, would you have quit like Pelly quit?
First, let me say the reason I didn't get fired is because Michael Jordan saved me. Not that Michael Jordan. The Michael Jordan that was the president and CEO of Westinghouse, the company that owned CBS at the time. And he did an interview with a magazine and essentially said, Bernie's got onto something. Bernie's got a point. The people who watch television news don't trust it. And Bernie had some validity in his argument. Once the CEO says that, you know what? I'm probably not going to get fired. And I didn't. The reason I didn't quit, Bill, is because, and Bob Sheeper said, if you don't like it here, why don't you leave? And my answer is, no, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm talking about liberal bias at CBS. You did something wrong. If somebody's going to quit, you quit. I'm not quitting. And I stayed around for 5 more years and then wrote Bias. Let me read you one very, very short thing before page 1 in Bias. It's a quote from Stephen Brill, who was a journalist and a lawyer. He said, when it comes to arrogance, power, and lack of accountability, journalists are probably the only people on the planet who make lawyers look good. He's right. There's a journalist, if arrogance were a crime, the Supermax prison in Colorado would be filled with journalists.
Okay, and let me just clarify something. You wrote the assessment of CBS's editorial posture in the Wall Street Journal.
Yes.
And then rather than the boys iced you, I was there at the time, so I know that. Yes, you lost all credibility with them. And then you wrote the book Bias after the Wall Street Journal. Now, Pelly. So Pelly makes a big martyrdom play here, that he's the victim and that the people who are giving him a hard time are under the sway of Trump. What did you think about that position?
I'm going to tell you that there are 2 theories about that, Bill. And I'm asking you and the people watching us now, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just telling you what the 2 theories are. One of them agrees with Scott Pelly. One of them says that Barry Weiss, who was brought in to run CBS News, was brought in to make sure that what goes on the air at CBS News meets Donald Trump's approval. In other words, make CBS News something like the Donald Trump TV network. Why? Because the people who bought CBS also want to buy the company that owns CNN, and they're going to need Donald Trump's blessings. So you bring Barry Weiss in, she makes CBS News friendly to Donald Trump, and the deal could go through to buy CNN. To back that theory up, one former executive who you know, Bill, and I know, and who you respect and I respect, told me that, he said, I don't believe in conspiracies, but there's one that I might believe in, and this is it. He said, Donald Trump doesn't like 60 Minutes. He doesn't like Scott Pelly, and he doesn't like Stephen Colbert. Colbert is gone, Scott Pelly is gone, and 60 Minutes is a brand new boss. So, Bill, you don't have to be paranoid to think maybe there's something to the theory that Barry Weiss was brought in to make Donald Trump happy.
All right.
The other theory is,
Let me wait before you get to the other thing. Let me challenge that.
but the other theory deals with challenging that. I'll do it in 10 seconds.
All right.
The other theory is very simple. Barry Weiss was brought in because the people who own CBS say there's a liberal bias there and we need to get rid of it and bring the CBS News to the middle. But CBS News journalists don't think they have a liberal bias, so they despise Barry Weiss.
Okay. And that's true. But you can back up the Pele hatred of Trump, and not just Pele, but others. In 6 years that the president has held office, we can find only one positive reference, one, made by 60 Minutes. And that was a short sound clip of somebody saying, hey, the tariffs might work.
Mm-hmm.
In 6 years, that's all 60 Minutes could come up with in a positive way toward the Republican president. That's insane. I'm sorry.
Yeah. A former executive of CBS News told me flat out, this is a quote, Scott Pelley hates Donald Trump, but he doesn't hate him for political reasons. He doesn't hate him because he's a Republican. He hates him for the same reason that half the country don't like Donald Trump. I'm going to read you one thing Scott Pelley said at a commencement speech at Wake Forest University last year. He said, at this moment, our sacred rule of law is under attack. Journalism is under attack. Universities are under attack. Freedom of speech is under attack. And a quiet, insidious fear is creeping through our schools, our businesses, our homes, and into our private thoughts. We fear to speak in America. Now, he never mentioned Donald Trump by name, but you have to be in a coma not to understand that Scott Pelley was taking a shot at Donald Trump. You don't do that if you're a CBS News correspondent and specifically a 60 Minutes correspondent. That he said it while he was doing that, while he was at CBS on the air. You just don't do that. And I can tell you this, a former 60 Minutes executive producer agrees that you don't do that. He shouldn't have been allowed to do that.
Okay. Wasn't it interesting that all the objection to Scott Pelley's conundrum came from the left? You didn't hear anybody on the right. And there are some libertarians on the right who want freedom of speech. They don't want anybody, any government agency controlling the media. Not one stuck up for Pelley. So I think these guys at 60 Minutes live in a land of their own.
They do.
They contrive this world like they're noble. They're doing the people's business. But in reality, they're not. They're not telling the truth. They're not giving you the whole picture.
Listen, they live in a world of their own is absolutely true. They are a part of CBS News and they are apart from CBS News. They're in a different building from CBS News. They are a tight-knit family that fights with each other, but they don't like outsiders telling them what to do. Jeff Fager, the former executive producer of 60 Minutes, told me on the record, 60 Minutes is a feisty place, his word, feisty, and that they fight with each other all the time. Arguments are not uncommon there. And the new guy coming in, Nick Bilton, should have been aware of the culture that he was speaking to and perhaps should have been more sensitive and less sensitive to what Scott Pelley said. I told Jeff Fager I thought Scott Pelley should have been fired because he crossed a bright line. Another person who used to work at 60 Minutes told me at 60 Minutes, FU is the way they say good morning every day. It's a tough place. It's a insidious, It's an enclave, it's a state within a state, and they don't like outsiders telling them what to do. And here comes Barry Weiss, here comes Nick Bilton. They don't like it. And they have all, as you correctly said, they have all their liberal friends in the media sticking up for them. Now, all that said, Bill, again, and don't shoot the messenger, all that said, they may be onto something with Barry Weiss coming in to make Donald Trump happy. The jury is still out on that. That may be the case. And if it is, that's wrong. We don't want that. Even Donald Trump supporters shouldn't want that.
You also have the situation where Steve Croft told me on our long form that he hated working at CBS, at 60 Minutes, that it was horrible, debilitating for him. So again, it seems that the powers that be in that place is not just ideological, but they eat their own. I mean, according to Croft, this was the most miserable time of his life.
Mike Wallace and Morley Saper are two of the great journalists of our time. Mike, I'm told, would steal Morley's stories. Steal his stories, but Morley would be getting ready to do a story and Mike would steal it out from under him. It's in corporate America today, and I know a little about this because I know people in big time corporate America. This kind of thing, they'd be going to HR every day. I mean, what goes on at 60 Minutes is not what goes on in modern day corporate America. They fight, they argue, they love each other. It's a family. I made a case once that CBS News was a family. It was the Manson family. But they don't like people coming in and telling them what to do. I told you, I read you the quote about arrogance. There's an arrogance there. There's a good arrogance and a bad arrogance. They have a kind of arrogance that we know what we're doing, we're the best. Don't you tell us what to do.
I don't think it's coming back.
Let me make one other point, Bill.
Sure.
About journalism in general. Journalists like to look down everybody's throat. They look down the throat of military people. They look down the throat of sports people. They look down the throat of political people. But if you look down their throat, and you examine what they're doing, as you're doing right now, Bill, they don't like that at all. They like looking down your throat, but don't you dare look down their throat.
Okay, I think 60 Minutes is done. I tried to watch it last night. It was boring, which is a cardinal sin for television news. Now they have 3 people who left, correspondents, and 3 that remain. And the ones that remain are really not difference makers. Is the nation, according to Bernie Goldberg, better off that all of this bias that you wrote about is under siege and that Trump seems to be winning this war?
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with you that winning this war, because I don't know what winning this war means.
Well, he's getting people fired. He's getting news organizations and entertainment organizations turned around that they won't do certain things because they fear him.
I don't like that. I don't like any president. I wouldn't like if Barack Obama or Joe Biden decided they don't like Sean Hannity and they had the clout to get him fired, or they didn't like Brett Baier and they wanted to get him. I don't like that. It's not what a president should do. A president should be bigger and above it all. But as far as the bias is concerned, when I wrote Bias in 2001, when I wrote this book in 2001, it was a wake-up call. It was an alarm. Pay attention. Nobody in the liberal media, nobody paid attention. And now they're paying the price.
However, if Trump didn't take them on, nothing would improve. Okay? So the whole structure of bashing Republicans, conservatives, and Trump, by extension, would remain if Trump didn't take them on.
It's going to remain anyway, and you know it.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think there are going to be big changes at CNN and CBS
Well, okay,
within the next 18 months.
you're right about that. And that presents a situation that is of huge consequence. What if the people who bought CBS wind up buying CNN and they have both CNN and CBS News under their control, and the people who are talking about Bill are friends with Donald Trump, the Ellisons, Larry, who founded Oracle, and he's one of the 2 or 3 richest people on the planet, and his son David Ellison. If they're friends with the president of the United States, any president, but in this case Donald Trump, and they have a big say over 2 major news organizations, do you, Bill O'Reilly, think that's a good idea?
I think it's subject to scrutiny on a case-by-case basis. So
Okay.
you had the president tank for JFK. Okay, you want names? I can give you names all day long. You had the president tank for FDR. Same thing. All right. And good journalists, honest journalists, people like you, have to call it out on a case by case. That if the president or anybody else in power starts to manipulate the news coverage and the information flow to the American people, that's got to be condemned right away. However,
That's all I'm saying.
okay, but if there is an industry-wide jihad against conservative Republicans or any president, that has got to be disposed and destroyed. Last word.
Absolutely. My last word, absolutely. You're right. I'm with you.
All right. Bernie Goldberg with me. That means I have to read bernardgoldberg.com again today. make sure my partner here is on the right track.
50% sale based to a new subscribers based on this conversation we're having.
Wow, 50% off Goldberg. Okay. We appreciate it, Bernie. Thanks for taking the time.